earlier, is one, what incentives, and I'm just need two people because we do need to move, what incentives will you propose to attract educators to the county? But two, and I think the larger one is what sacrifices are you willing to make in order to fully fund education in the county? Because it's easy to talk the pie, and it's easy to talk about how we're going to educate and how we're going to increase class size and how we're going to a book for every child and a MacBook Pro for every kid. But when it comes down to it, when you're sitting at the table, then if you're going to do all of that, then something's getting cut. And so we want to hear right now on what is, matter of fact, we can just stick on the cut. What's getting cut?
Well, let me say this.
Okay, we'll have everybody answer that. Yeah, we can rock them.
Let me say this. For the last 8 years, I've run the office of the sheriff, and I will tell you that it's not always about the dollar, Reverend Lee. It's about desire. You know, if you streamline using proven managerial processes and reprioritize the services that are due to our citizens, oftentimes you'll find money there. I found money there in a budget that had not been actually had been reduced by 42.5% over a 7-year period. So it's about using proven managerial processes to streamline those services that need to be done. Look, there is no greater priority than the education of our young people. There is none. And there are partners that we are in contact with now in the nonprofit sector that can help us where we need to be helped. You know, and I'm talking about resources in the classroom. You know, teachers, when you recruit teachers, you know, it only becomes about money when the environment isn't conducive to them teaching. There's a way for us to put in the classroom the amenities that teachers need to teach their young people. There's a way to make sure that we have books for our young people. There are nonprofits out there, mine is one included. Drew Freeman is one of my schools that I've adopted that we have helped supply with resources over the years. So it goes back to what I talked about a little earlier, stakeholders. The stakeholders. You get the stakeholders to the table and to find out exactly what is needed. No speculation, not a non-educator or just a politician trying to determine what goes on in education circles and community. It's a partnership. County executive does not control the school system, but must partner with the school system to find out where the priorities are and whatever it takes to get it done. This is my home. This is my county. I got grandkids. We're going to make sure our education system is where it needs to be.
Well, since November on my website, I have outlined the 4 ways I will look to streamline government. First of all, I've said that I'm going to move to what is called a county stat approach, a data-driven, performance-driven approach to government that looks at things, for example, like how much overtime we're using. They used it successfully in Baltimore City and saved $43 million in 3 years. So first of all, moving to data-driven government. Secondly, looking at duplication in government. We have 30 budgeted agencies. We also have 27 municipalities. Looking at how we are performing government. Looking at how we are performing government to determine where duplication exists and where we can streamline and consolidate. Also how we're contracting for things, how we are buying and purchasing things. Are there opportunities for more bulk purchasing across government? Better using the Council on Government's bulk purchasing program, for example. And then growing the nonprofit sector. We pull in the least amount of dollars in the region through our nonprofit sector, about $8,000 per person. You compare that, for example, to Montgomery County. They're pulling in $25,000 per person. We've got to build capacity in our nonprofit sector. Those are the 4 ways I'm going to look at to free up dollars for our critical priorities. But let me just add one last thing. Here's the key on education. It depends. It is not just the building. It is not just the building. If we cannot have shared responsibility of parents, families, and communities outside the building, we cannot leap ahead in education. It cannot happen. And it is on those 3 areas. Suspensions are driving teacher turnover, principal turnover, and eating into critical classroom learning time. So high suspensions, high absenteeism from school, and producing more students in those top tier. Those are the issues, and they're all of our issues.
To speak to the budget, let me share with you, because I'm sit on the county council and I've been looking at this budget for over 7 years. The budget is formula driven. We have to meet maintenance of effort based upon what the state has told us. And our budget, as I said, is 62%. It goes to the school, and once it goes into the school system, the county does not have control. I plan to go to the state to ask the state to give us control over how the budget is being managed at the school. Because again, we've asked that funds be placed in the classroom as opposed to the administrative process. For Drew Freeman, I passed a resolution that's called the Suitland Promise. It's a program that has been patterned on the program in Harlem, where they have taken some of the toughest schools and began to develop curriculum around certain aspects in order to increase students' performance. So therefore, Drew Freeman is one of the schools that have been selected to participate in that program. We have to also look at how we educate our kids. I had one of the nation's top educator come into Prince George's County, a person by the name of Dr. Jawanse Kunjufu, who has indicated that what we are missing is that we have to begin to educate our kids at pre-K to third and help them learn how to read and reading comprehension. One of the interesting things is that Dr. Weiss is doing that in Montgomery County, because he knows that if a person has reading skills at third and fourth grade, they're going to make it through the school. And we don't have to have suspension, because kids tend to skip school because they're embarrassed and they feel that they cannot perform. So we need to look at our system holistically, but we do need to begin to put money in those pre-K to third grades in order to move us forward. Thank you.
Right now, Prince George's County puts 3.6% of the money in our education system. That goes to that budget we're talking about, where the school, what we put, not what's formula driven, not state money, not federal dollars. 36.4% is what we put into our priority. Montgomery County puts 70% of its money into its priority. Now you tell me where the priority is. And for the last 8 months, I've gone around here saying that's why I won't furlough or fire teachers for budgetary reasons. If that's our priority, you fund it. We can have all these different programs you talk about up here, who has children in the school system? Raise your hand. In our public school system. Do you go to the PTA meetings? Do you see your colleagues there? The other parents? No, that's not going to happen tomorrow. You know what is going to happen? If we don't have an active county executive that understands exactly what you're going through. Because I sit in those PTA meetings, my wife and I. And you could go to one when our daughter was at Heather Hills, packed like this room. Soon as we got to Suitland, where our son was in high school, almost nobody in there. The difference is that we've got to make sure that everybody in this county understands that their child can get a quality education throughout Prince George's County. If they don't feel that way, they won't sit in the seats in the schools. We have got to get those parents back in there. And the only way we do it is to fund the school system like we actually mean it, not just say it. It cannot be on the table at all. It is not at all negotiable. Everything else is, but not education. We've got to figure out a way to put more money in there, because we're going to lose those teachers. That's where you start. That's how you get serious. All this other stuff isn't.